Good
Hello, hello.
morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Better. I improved my sleep from last week, so I'm feeling good today.
Oh, nice. I'm really curious since we're talking about sleep today. What'd you do? What happened?
You know what? I started my ritual of just shutting down everything before bed.
Yeah.
And so like around like 9:15, I'm like, no more phone, no more TV, just turn everything off, have a glass of chamomile tea, and just
Mm.
like read a book or just relax, yoga, do something. But like it's been working. 2 days now, I've been going to bed before 10, sleep until
Uh-huh.
7:30. It's been wonderful.
Whoa, so that's 9.5 hours of sleep.
I know. I think I needed it though, because over the weekend I didn't get that much sleep.
Yeah. Do you use an alarm clock?
I don't. I let my body just get up whenever it wants.
How awesome is that?
I know. It's honestly, it's to the point now where no matter when I went to bed, it was always on the dot 6:30, no matter what time it was. So I'm
Mm.
actually enjoying that. It's giving me a little bit more time to 7 now, but yeah, it's crazy that my body just automatically every day gets up at the same time.
Oh, that's great. And when you're sleeping better, what do you notice throughout the day? Do
I
you,
so much like just the way I start my day is incredible. Like I just start like, okay, what can I do today? Like I'm energized, I'm happier, I want to achieve
uh,
more. I'm like my head's flat cleared, it's not foggy. Like it's incredible what sleep does. Like it's literally like
that's
I
great.
charged my batteries, so it's
That's
great.
great to hear. That's a great testimonial. Because normally when we talk about sleep, like people come into the challenge, they wanna lose weight and they want to fit in their skinny jeans again, and we're like, well, here's the food stuff, but there's also this other stuff, and it's so hard to get people to buy in on that. But it's so important. It's so important. So I'm glad you shared that for sure. It's like such a big deal, you know.
Well,
So
guess last week I was so tired and I was definitely feeling it, like my lack of energy. So
mm,
it's I definitely feel a big increase. I thought it was important to share.
that's awesome. And
Yeah.
speaking of Rachel testimonials, I on Tuesday you posted this amazing before and after picture,
Yes.
and I was like, wow, this is incredible. So can you just tell us about that, like what your whole experience has been like, what it was like before, during, what it's like now, where you want to take things, what you've
Yes,
learned?
of course, of course. I thought it was important to actually share that, even though
Mm.
part of me was like, "Oh my gosh," I was a little embarrassed, not to lie, to like, I actually look like that. I let myself go, and so I had no idea because over time you're not aware of it, and so
Hmm.
it wasn't until I started having a lot of health issues within my family. My father
Mm.
ended up getting cancer. I had a few cousins that got cancer, and so I just saw this trend of a lot of people health going down. And so it was a wake up call for me to do something. And I ended up joining this gym and taking this challenge of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And when I
Uh-huh.
started training, doing this martial arts, part of it was we had to go and start doing the paleo diet. And so we started there probably like 3.5 years ago. So I
Oh.
started there by just going paleo, started training, and I did notice like everybody else, I had a low energy, and it took my body a little bit to adjust. But man, once my body changed, it was incredible how much
Yeah.
energy I had. And I just enjoyed the process of, okay, before there was a set of stairs, I would go up the stairs and I'd be dying out of breath. And then I was like, I would start to notice I went up those stairs. Let me go take those stairs. And let me go take those stairs. I just,
Let's keep going.
yeah, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
This is incredible. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I just slowly over time, I just saw the improvements and I just kept going with it. And, you know, the more I eliminated from my diet, the more my body couldn't handle. So
Mm.
I, never went back after 3 years now. I've never reintroduced pastas. I haven't reintroduced any flours because my body just can't handle it. So it's not that I
Mm.
have celiac disease. My body does not want to handle anything gluten. So I just kept away from all gluten and kept paleo now for 3 years. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I am, tempted once in a while to see something, but then it's like I tell myself, I know what it feels like. It might be those few seconds of, okay, I'm enjoying this and it tastes good in my stomach, but like, or in my mouth for a few seconds, but the second goes down, the regret, the feeling of what it feels like in my body is not worth it. So
Mm.
just that's been my constant reminder over 3 years of just having this increased energy, feeling good, feeling confident, feeling what it like putting my clothes on and feeling like, oh, okay, I'm not feeling like, okay, it's let me get something loose and hide everything. I feel good and I love that. So
Awesome.
it's been a journey of 3 years, but looking back, I'm just amazed myself when I actually compare the pictures of where I came and where I am now. But it's
Yeah.
incredible the power of what you eat and then also being active and exercising. It's an amazing combination.
Yeah, that's a powerful testimony, and I'm so glad that you have that experience, because I think it really helps you help other people who are just now beginning their journey. It's incredibly inspiring, and I love that you saw your health of the family having some issues, right? And you were like, well, I can do something about that, and that too is powerful, because many people get caught up in this belief that, like, this disease runs in my family, this is the way it's going to be for me, and they become kind of a victim to the diagnosis that's frequently presented to their family, and they don't take action. They don't really think about, like, well, can I do anything to minimize this and change my lifestyle? And I keep going back to, when people say this runs in my family, you have to also look at, well, is the family just eating the same things and sitting around the same dinner table and putting the same products on their skin, and like kind of have the same belief mentality, and like when you look at it that way, it's very much a product of the environment rather than genetics, and it's more about genetic expression, which is so powerful. So I love hearing that. I love hearing that you're feeling better too. That's really cool. That's really cool. Super awesome. So
yeah, I thought that'd be important to share with everybody that I too am struggling, and have done I've done what you've done, and I'm in this constant battle that I'm working at every single day. So I thought it was really important to show everybody in the community.
Yeah, and I love that, like, exercise got easier too, like going up the stairs and just little functional tasks that you do every single day. And I know for me, I used to exercise all the time. Like, I mean, I still exercise a lot. Fitness is like my passion, but like in college, I was, doing twice a day and, just hitting the gym so hard, but I was not eating very well. And I was strong and I was fairly lean, but like when I started eating clean, and when I say clean, I mean like a whole food paleo diet, it was as if I could exercise half the time and I got meaner and stronger, because what I was putting in my body was so much more efficient, So I'm truly fitter now than I was when I was in college, and I feel like I'm doing less work because I'm just eating right. And I see a lot of people they do it the other way around. They're like, I just exercise all the time, and they go home and they just have the worst foods in their cupboard, And it's like, wow, you could make it a lot easier on yourself if you just change what you're eating, But we have this mentality of exercise more, eat less, rather than think about the quality of our food and the quality of our movement, So super awesome. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, very inspiring. I would love it if we could do every Tuesday, Transformation Tuesday,
I know, I started that. I'm like, and it was so motivating and inspiring to see the outreach of everybody else responding and sharing their photos. That was incredible to see, like, you had Cindy, you have a bunch of people that just,
oh my gosh.
I love it. I want to do it every Tuesday now.
Yeah. I noticed a lot of pictures being posted on your thread of some people, their face, you could just see it, like their face was just so inflamed, and they look 10 years younger when they, in 30 days after just changing a few key things in their food and being consistent with it. And also with testimonials, I noticed too that when one person puts a picture of a before and after, everyone around them is like, oh, I've got one too, and everyone starts sharing. It's so powerful because everyone starts believing that this works. I think it's so important to have the community and everyone on board on the same page, and for us to all see what's possible when we do this. So highly encourage, let's keep going with the Transformation Tuesday and posting before and after pics, because they're super awesome.
I agree. We'll do that every Tuesday now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, awesome. Well, let's talk about what we talked about first, which is sleep. So as I mentioned, sleep is one of those things that we harp on in a big way, and it's also one of the things that no one wants to hear about, and very few people want to change it because people are tied to their schedules.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, I'll talk more about this, but we're tired when we come home, and we just want to watch TV and check out a little bit, and that's normal. And we stay up late, and we have to wake up early and go to work and do this thing all over again. And we're very much wired and tired and drinking caffeine throughout the day and lots of sugar to give us energy. And, it's funny because I was doing some research prior to this talk today, and I found that 33% of us are sleep deprived, right? And then 38% of us are having experiences where we're unintentionally falling asleep throughout the day,
Right.
So like at the computer or just, before you eat or after you eat or whatever. And then 5% of us have reported nodding off at the wheel at some point in their lives, which is super scary. So like sleep deprivation from an operational standpoint can be detrimental, but it's something I see a lot, is that people are kind of just wired throughout the day because of artificial sources of energy. And then we lay down to go to bed and we're like wide awake, you know, like tired throughout the day because we're so strapped on artificial energy and sugar. And then we lay down to go to bed and we can't go to sleep at all because of all the things we put in our body and just messing up our entire cortisol rhythm and circadian rhythm, and everything just gets messed up. So, and very much the same way, what we're trying to do is kind of mimic our ancestors in terms of the way they ate. You know, also with movement, we want to eat more like, or move more like our ancestors moved, but also think about how they slept, you know. And a lot changed in our modern environment in 1879 when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. And then now we can work 24 hours a day. We can stay up after the sun goes down. We have a reason. And it just messed up our circadian rhythms in a big way. And most people are unaware of it because we've just been growing up in this environment the whole time. You know, so it's really powerful. Most people, just like they're unaware that sugar and grains and gluten are radically negatively affecting their health. It's the same thing when we're sleep deprived. So let's talk about what happens when we do get inadequate sleep. One thing is it alters our mood. So you mentioned you were happier when you sleep more, but when we don't get enough sleep, it leads to anxiety, depressive symptoms, you know, mental distress. It also leads to weight gain and obesity. So you could be someone who's eating a perfect whole food paleo diet, but if you're not sleeping, a lot of negative things happen in terms of your biochemistry. So cortisol gets released when you don't sleep enough. We talked about how cortisol is a hormone that's supposed to be high when you wake up at the beginning of the day, and then it kind of goes off, tapers off at the end of the day. And right before you go to bed, it should be at its lowest point. And anytime you have any stress responses throughout the day, like, you know, something you have to work really hard for, a workout, or you're getting chased by a lion or something, you're supposed to have a little spike in cortisol. But most of us, we're waking up with very little cortisol, and then it goes higher throughout the day. And that's why a lot of people have a hard time sleeping. So that cortisol rhythm gets radically disrupted when we don't get enough sleep. And what this does is it causes us to become insulin resistant. We talked a lot about how insulin's a hormone that gets secreted by the pancreas, and it clears the bloodstream of sugar, you know, picks up the glucose molecules, takes them to our cells, energy gets exchanged. But when we're insulin resistant, the cells are saying, no, you can't be here, you got to go somewhere else. And the insulin stores that glucose as fat. And that happens chronically when we're sleep deprived and we become obese. And this also negatively impacts our decisions around food. So people have a hard time managing what they eat when they're sleep deprived. And that's because of the changes that happen to hormones that control appetite and hunger. So when you're sleep deprived, you will decrease a hormone called leptin. That's a hormone that suppresses appetite, and you'll increase ghrelin, which is the peptide that stimulates appetite. And what this does, it causes you to go for sugar. So when you're not sleeping well, you'll notice like ice cream is very appealing. You know, it's very appealing because your ability to make good food decisions is not there. And then your risk for chronic diseases radically go up when you're chronically sleep deprived. So I mentioned obesity and how that works, but also type 2 diabetes. And this is highly correlated with the insulin resistance thing I talked about. Your risk for heart disease goes up, high blood pressure, and also mentioned the mood disorders. So it's just really important to see that these are environmental things, and then food plays a part of it, managing stress plays a part of it, exercise plays a part of it, but so does sleep in a big, huge way. But it's also important sleep's important for your neurological health. You know, I mentioned the mood disorders, but it leads to problems with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's when we're not having good nerve conduction. It's important for your hormones, your endocrine system, your immune system, your musculoskeletal growth and repair. So I know a lot of people want, you know, they don't want thinning hair, they don't want brittle nails, they want skin that's nice and not like, you know, wrinkling all over the place. Well, your sleep has a big part of that, and it affects your digestive system. So a lot of people are having leaky gut syndrome and, you know, problems with food absorption and, you know, autoimmune issues. Sleep is very important for that. It's important for cellular regulation, problem solving skills. If there's any athletes out there, people that are performing at high levels, it's critical that you sleep. It affects your speed, your accuracy, your energy. I heard that LeBron James and Roger Federer, both of them sleep around 12 hours a day.
No way.
Yeah, just look at LeBron James. Look at the freak that he is. He sleeps like 12 hours a day, pitch black room. He's like super disciplined about it. Yeah. But that's what happens when you're sleeping that well and that disciplined about it. It allows your body to perform much better. So if you're an athlete, you're not sleeping well, you're always going to be limited. And your ability to tolerate stress. When people are sleep deprived, they're typically, as I mentioned, more anxious and stressed out. But your resilience radically improves when you're getting enough sleep. So say all that because it's just so important. And I've said that like a million times to so many people, but I want to hit it home. And I know there's a lot of people that will keep coming back with, well, I have a night shift, or what do I do about my husband who wants to stay up? So I'm just putting all that out there. The information is going to be here, and I'm going to talk about a lot of tips and things that you can do to improve, but it's important to understand that it's the real deal. Sleep's super important. So sleep is defined as the natural periodic suspension of consciousness during which the powers of the body are restored. And like I mentioned, we want to mimic as closely as we can the food of our ancestors and also the sleep of our ancestors. So like, as I mentioned, they sleep 9 to 10 hours a night. When I went to the jungle, we didn't have alarm clocks. When the sun went down, like we didn't have much to do unless we were doing like a campfire ceremony or something like that. So we would go to bed, and we would wake up when the sun came up. There was no alarms, and we would all sleep typically 9 to 10 hours a night, just like that. So it's really interesting. And it's just aligning ourselves with the sun, and that naturally calibrates the circadian rhythm in our body and the hormones and the physiology. But like I mentioned, 1879, everything changed. Light bulbs, more light bulbs, and where are we now? We have HD TVs with big, blue lights coming in, and our eyes perceive that light, our skin perceives that light, and it confuses the body into thinking that the sun is still up. So it disrupts that natural circadian rhythm, disrupts that cortisol flow that we're supposed to have. And most people today are super lucky if they get like 7 hours of sleep. Most people, I think, are like around 5 or 6, and it's of that time that they do sleep, it's typically very poor. They're not getting really deep REM sleep. They're waking up a lot, to go to the bathroom, and because we're so sleep deprived, the pharmaceutical industry is trying to fix this issue by, creating things like Ambien, which, if you look at the research on that, your eyes will be closed, but you're not really getting a deep restorative sleep that gets all the benefits of when you're getting natural sleep. So it's important to be mindful of that it's a $5 billion sales a year industry, and they're not talking about the natural ways to improve sleep, and they're not addressing food and nutrition and exercise and all those things. You do all those things and you start aligning yourself with the sun, it's a lot easier to sleep. You don't have to rely on Ambien and things like that. So this is super, super important. It's just important that we get to the root issues of all of our problems. So let's talk about some goals. You have anything to say about that? Anything at all?
No, I completely agree, because they're not, like you said, they're not finding a way to solve the problem. They're just finding a way just to temporarily distract you. So it just takes care of it at that moment, but it's not going to be long term. So
right. Yeah. What long-term solutions? Yeah. So as far as goals, I mentioned our ancestors sleeping 9 to 10 hours a night, and when I say that to most people, they're like, "There's no way I can sleep 9 to 10 hours a night." But I would say at least shoot for around 7 to 10 hours, and just see. And if you want to know how many, because it's going to be different for everybody. If you really want to know how much sleep your body wants, then do what you're doing and wake up without an alarm clock. It's like one of the best ways to do it, because your body will know exactly how much it sleeps. So I would say, sleep without an alarm clock, find out how many hours that was, and then find out what time you're supposed to wake up, and then go to bed at the appropriate time so that you get enough sleep. Yeah. I definitely recommend for most people to be in bed by 10 p.m., after that, because from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is when you're getting the most restorative sleep. Right. That's doing the most to heal you,
what a lot of people say is like, I have too much to do throughout the day. But actually, it's impressive when you go to bed earlier, and you get up earlier, how much more productive you are and how much more you can achieve. And if you
Yeah.
just your day just being tired and just doing, because when I'm tired, things take longer. Like I procrastinate, I get more distracted. So when I actually get sleep, I'm more narrowed down. I can just focus and like achieve what I need to achieve really quickly. So when people do that, like I have too much to do, I'm the same way. But if I get more sleep, it's impressive how quickly and proactive I can be.
Yeah, that's a super important point, because they're not looking always at how more effective they could be.
Right.
You know, how much more energy they could have throughout the day, how many more correct decisions and less mistakes they could be making. It's really interesting. So I'm really glad you said that. So yeah, for sure. And you mentioned ritual. I think that's another one of the most important things, because when you have a good ritual, like you're starting to send early signals to your body that it's time to go to bed. You know, like literally the skin pigmentation, the hormones, the physiology, the gut, the brain, everything's like, oh, you're telling me it's time to go to bed. I'm going to start, getting my body in a place where it's time to go to sleep and get ready to go to that deep restorative sleep place. But before bed, if we're going to bed at 10 p.m., giving ourselves about 30 minutes of a ritual time and trying to avoid real hyperactive activity during that time. So, not exercising during that time, not reading a book about war, not watching the news, not watching really anything, because that light is going to throw off the receptors, like I mentioned, but just keeping things as calm as possible. It's going to be different for different people. For some people, it could be like breathing techniques. It could be using essential oils. It could be reading a book. It could be journaling, just whatever that is. Getting your body in a state where it's calm and ready to go to bed. One of the things I highly recommend is that people do a brain dump. Just put down all the thoughts that you're thinking. One of the issues that I see with a lot of people that I work with is the reason why they can't go to bed. One of them is because they're thinking so much. There's just so much going on in our modern world. We have so much information and, social media and text and emails and all these things that we have to do at work, these big to-do lists. And we go to bed and we're like, what do I have to do tomorrow? Oh my gosh, what is it? And just take like 5 minutes and just write out everything that you might have to do the next day. So you're not thinking about it before you go to bed or waking up in the middle of the night thinking about these things. You can just say, well, I've already outsourced it. So doing a brain dump is super, super helpful. And we talked a lot about just managing stress in general last week, and all of that is going to be helpful. So we talked about things about yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong movements that you can do, exercise that you enjoy, spending time in nature, taking walks unplugged, getting away from social media and Instagram and all these things that make you think that like everyone's having the most perfect life, not getting too absorbed with the news, spending time to be creative and play and doing things that you love to do. But managing stress is so important because you're regulating that hormone cortisol. The more you can get that to work for you, the less stressed out you can be. The more you do your own work and check your personal perceptions. If you're viewing things from a state of fear, like worried or anxious that this might happen, and asking yourself if it's really true. Again, we talked a lot about this last week, but stress management is also going to tie into sleep management. So it's really important. And I touched on this a little bit earlier, but just avoiding electronics, 30 minutes to even better, maybe 60 minutes before you go to sleep because of what's happening. So most of us are watching these, big screen TVs, and that blue light comes in. When the sun comes down, one of the things you can do is use blue blocker glasses, that blocks the blue light. These things are super cool. Yeah, so Hollywood hip. Look at this. These are called Swannies. I love these things. But yeah, like if you're going to watch TV at night, something like this blocks the blue light from coming in. So your eyes don't think the sun is coming up and it's not gazing at the sun, and you can go to bed a lot easier. It doesn't keep you up. It's really cool.
Yeah.
You should definitely check these out.
I'll post a link too for everybody again. Those are awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. But that blue light suppresses melatonin. So people hear about the hormone melatonin and how it's vital for controlling sleep and rest cycles. But that blue light, especially on our phones, iPads, TVs, all of that suppresses the production of melatonin, and it's going to throw off our ability to sleep. So you definitely want to avoid that 30 to 60 minutes before bed. And also be mindful of the electronics in the room. So many of us have all kinds of lights going off in our bedroom and we're not quite looking at it. But even the slightest light can like touched by your skin, can confuse your body into thinking that the sun is still up. So if you have an alarm clock, for instance, that has this really bright LED light coming at you, you know, and you're just like sleeping on your side looking right at it, that is very confusing to your body. And if you have an alarm, you know, up on the ceiling with this little red light that's blinking all night long, or it's green or blue or whatever, that too can confuse it. So what we do is we put tape on our lights on the fire alarm, and we use nightstand alarms that don't have LED. It's just like you put in a battery, there's no light, you can't see it in the dark. It makes noise when you wake up, and it's like $5 and it's awesome. Right. But it's not some, you know, fancy big light thing. Another thing that's super helpful is to use blackout curtains. So to make sure that no outside light comes in, because you know, most of us, if you just have regular blinds, there's a lot of light, like street lights coming in, a lot of cars going by if you live by a street, and that can disrupt the amount of light that come in your room, and it can just really throw you off. Also the noise. Yeah. So some people, because it's if the room is silent, they're hearing the outside, and that can throw them off. So one thing a lot of people benefit from are the sound machines that have like nature sounds, like by the ocean, or, you know, being in the forest or something like that. And when you think about it, that's what we would be hearing if we were living indigenously anyway. So there's something about our DNA that hears that. It's like, oh yeah, it's time to go to bed. Some people have a hard time with just like absolute silence because they start thinking a lot, you know? So little things to do that. Do you ever try to?
I'm one of those people. I have to sleep with a fan on. Like I have to have that noise of the fan and also the coolness on me. So without the fan, I definitely, if I don't have it, I'm waking up and I'm tossing and turning. If I have the fan, it's just that noise that cancels everything else out for me. I have to have a fan.
Yeah, we do a fan as well. And you mentioned the cool thing, and I was going to say that, but cooler is definitely better for most people when they're sleeping, somewhere around like 66 to 68 degrees. Of course, 66 degrees in Texas in the summer is probably different than like 66 degrees in Colorado in the home. But those things can be very powerful. Also, some habits around food and nutrition. But you know, I talk about this a lot, but not eating 3 hours within the time that you go to bed. So if you're eating and try to go to bed right away, your body's going to be trying to digest that food, and it'll be so focused on digesting that food that it won't be focused on sleeping and repairing all your muscles and getting you into good sleep mode. Not drinking too much water, you know, or any liquids prior to bed. So a little bit of tea, a little bit of golden milk is completely fine as long as there's no caffeine in there, but not going too crazy to the point where you wake up and go to the restroom. So it's funny because some people, I notice, can have like a big glass of water right before they go to bed and they don't wake up at all, you know, whereas me, I'm 3 hours before, like that's my limit. If I have anything within 3 hours, I wake up. So I have to be real careful of that. So it's different for everybody, but just think about that. And also being very careful about how much caffeine you take in. So there's a lot of people who are like 5, 6, 7 cups of coffee a day, and they have coffee in the afternoon and just energy, artificial stuff. So that can radically disrupt sleep. You know, that's a hard thing for people. Go ahead.
The trick I have is when, like an hour or two before I'm going to go to bed, I always floss and brush my teeth, because there'll be another like, okay, I already floss and brush. I'm not going to drink or I'm not going to eat anything because I don't want to do it again.
That is good.
Yeah. So it's a little trick I do as well, is because that's another thing is when you get tired, you don't want to be dozing off and be like, oh, I got to get up and floss my teeth, because it wakes you back up again. So like an hour and a half, 2 hours before bed, it has two bonuses. So you don't eat or drink anything else, and then that way you're ready to go to bed. So when you start dozing off, you're already set and ready to go.
Yeah, and also you don't have to deal with the light, you know? So a lot of people, when they're flossing and brushing their teeth, it's right before they want to go to bed, but they're turning on the light. So it's like, coming right at you. Super tip there, Rachel. If you get any more super tips, let me know, because that was awesome. Yeah, that's a really good one, for sure. Yeah, so we could talk more about caffeine here in a bit, but generally, you know, keep it to like 1-2 cups of coffee a day at most, and try to have it before noon. You know, not like in the afternoon, not before bed. I know there's people out there who be like, well, I have espresso every night before I go to bed. And just try. I have a friend. He's like one of my best friends. And yeah, he somehow has an espresso every single night before bed. And he goes to sleep, but he doesn't quite understand that his body's not recovering the way it could be recovering, you know? So it's interesting. But yeah, just be real careful of that. And if you ever want to know if something's working for you or not, try taking it out for 30 days and then bring it back in. And I think everybody should do that at least once with coffee, just to see what happens. And obviously eating like a whole food paleo diet, you know, free of the things that are giving us artificial energy and lots of toxicity. So free of, you know, sugar, grains, legumes, you know, just processed dairy, conventional dairy, toxic fats, you know, focusing on everything we're talking about here: grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, free-range chicken, you know, good healthy eggs, organic vegetables, coconut oil, olive oil, good fats, nuts and seeds. Just do that. Drink lots of water. You're going to be in much better shape. My wife, as I mentioned, my wife loves essential oils. She uses a lot of essential oils before she goes to bed. So good brands are doTERRA and Young Living, and she likes things like Serenity, Lavender, Balance. Those are all things that are good around sleep. We also use one of those aroma things, like where it diffuses air, diffuses oil diffuser in the air, and that really helps sleep a lot. That's also another thing that makes a lot of noise while we go to bed. You know, not too much noise, but just enough noise like a fan where we're not hearing absolute silence. So we pretty much put that on like every night, and it really, really helps us sleep a lot. Magnesium is a super supplement. So if there's one supplement I would recommend for people who want to improve their sleep, it's magnesium. Almost everyone could benefit from magnesium. 80% of us are super deficient in magnesium, and it's because the topsoil is now deficient in magnesium. So the magnesium that would be in the soil that's going into the fruits and vegetables and, you know, eaten by our animals, it's not there anymore. So we're not getting enough magnesium, and it's, you know, it presents itself in all kinds of problems. So some of them like irritability, leg cramps, osteoporosis, low sex drive, food cravings, infertility, weakness, migraines, constipation. So magnesium's huge, and it's almost one of those things I feel like everybody should supplement with, and just normal levels are fine, but it's extremely hard to overdose on magnesium because it's also a laxative. So you would just get rid of it on your own anyway. So there's a Natural Calm brand that I love. This is great. You can just take like 200, 350 milligrams before bed and just stir it with a little bit of water, maybe before the hour period, a 2-hour period if you're someone who wakes up. And there's also spray. So spray magnesium is great because you absorb it really well. And there's a lot of great brands out there. I really like Ancient Minerals oil spray magnesium. The spray is been more beneficial in some ways because you absorb it even better than when you drink it like this. But it seems like everybody, you know, a lot of people are worried about leg cramps and things like that. First thing I always think about is magnesium deficiency, and a lot of people are concerned about osteoporosis and bone density and not getting enough calcium on a paleo diet, and just magnesium. It's more about the balance of magnesium and calcium than it is about calcium absorption. So highly recommend everyone supplement with magnesium. So that's generally my tips. You know, those are the things that I've also played around with some technology stuff that tracks your sleep. I know Fitbit tracks sleep. That's the kind of, you've got one of those. There you go. How does that work for you? Do you track your sleep?
I did in the beginning, and then now, like for the first few months I did, and then I'll do it once in a while, but I kind of like not having something on my wrist. Like, I don't know, I wear it all day, and then at night I kind of need a break from it. So lately I've been taking it off, but it's interesting. It'll actually track your light sleep, your deep sleep, your REM, and you can, the next day you just look on your phone and it'll give you a whole little chart, and it'll show you how many hours or what percent you are in deep sleep or REM. And it's actually kind of interesting because it just shows me I'm a very, very light sleeper, and I'm very small, like maybe like 5% in deep sleep at night, which is incredible to actually to learn those things. So I find it
that's really cool. Do you notice things that help you get into deep sleep easier?
Yes, I have no, and that's one thing I kind of did. I kind of did like a little trial period. Like if I spend so much time outside or if I exercise more, how does my sleep get affected? Or if I stop caffeine by 3 o'clock, what does it do to my sleep? So I've done different things like that to kind of see what affects my sleep. And definitely the more time outside, the more exercise, my sleep gets improved. My body does not allow any caffeine after 4 o'clock is my cutoff point. So any caffeine after 4, I'll be wide awake. So I know that's my new, like, so I'm learning different things as I go, but it's kind of interesting to see, you know, through my app and through my phone, what I can do to change my sleep.
Nice. Yeah. I've played with that stuff a little bit, some things that kind of track your sleep and how deep of sleep you get. But I don't like the technology in the bedroom, so I kind of stopped doing it, and I sleep pretty well now, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Another thing I forgot to mention was alcohol. A lot of people are like, "Oh, if I had some wine, I sleep so much better." But it's not like real good sleep. And what happens when we drink alcohol is it turns off human growth hormone, you know, which is needed for a restful sleep, and it's what helps us regenerate and repair. So I understand, you know, a lot of people socialize and they drink in that way, and that's completely fine. You know, always the recommendation with alcohol is red wine is better. You know, clean liquor is better. Not putting a lot of sugar in your alcohol. But if you are going to drink it, try to have it earlier in the day, in the afternoon. Maybe not at morning and waking up and doing that. You know, but trying not to have it right before bed would be better, so it doesn't negatively impact your sleep. So. And if anybody has any questions about sleep or anything like that, you can let us know in the comments section. We'll happy to help you with that. So yeah, that's sleep in a nutshell.
I love it. And that's really cool because a lot of people keep asking, how do I improve my sleep? What are some tips? So this is wonderful for people, especially the cramping. I see a lot of posts about, I got cramping, what do I do? So, and you know, some people recommend drinking pickle juice.
Oh yeah. So that would be the electrolyte thing. And again, cramping. So I think magnesium, I think electrolytes. So that's why the pickle juice is good, but also putting salt in the water. You know, so most people are extremely dehydrated and they're not absorbing their water and they're not getting enough electrolytes. And now they're not getting enough salt because of where they were getting their salt. So typically people were getting salts from refined and processed foods in order to keep the shelf life of the food extended. But when people convert to a whole food paleo diet, they kind of forget about the salt because it's not on broccoli. You know, it's not on chicken unless you put it there. So people tend to forget about it, and that's why they tend to cramp up a little bit. But yeah, salt deficiency, magnesium deficiency, electrolyte deficiency, all those things are super important. Yeah.
Wonderful. And as important as sleep, because sleep, as we learned today, is super important.
Yes, so important. Please.
Do we
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say we have 2 questions today that we can dive into.
Great.
Yes. The first one is from Janelle. She goes, will you please discuss the effects of coffee and tea on the gut and body in general? Is caffeine and acidic both a problem? Is it advisable to switch to green tea after coffee in the mornings? And then she goes, thank you again. I find these videos incredibly helpful and I'm learning a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I really appreciate when people say thank you because I enjoy doing these things. I think you do too. And I love the feedback we get. So thank you for that. So coffee is one of those things. It is a very individualized thing. And you'll hear me say this over and over again in terms of how many carbs should we be having, or what type of foods, like should I eat this meat or this vegetable? Like all of this is not a one size fits all approach. Everything is very individualized, and it's really the case with coffee. I drink coffee every day. I love coffee. I think it's one of the most amazing things in the world. I feel amazing when I do drink coffee, and I really appreciate the ritual effect of coffee. You know, I wake up and I have one of these like stovetop things that I put coffee in, and it just like wakes me up, and the smell in the morning, I love it. And I sit down on the balcony and watch the sun come up and have coffee. It's amazing. But I never have more than 1 or 2 cups a day, and I never have it after 12, and I never have coffee after I work out. So that's another thing. So just a few considerations. But in terms of its impact on the gut, there are some properties with coffee that can have a negative impact on the gut. So Coffee in a couple ways acts kind of like a grain, because coffee beans they're a seed, really is what they are. And like all seeds, like all beans, like all grains, really like all vegetables, they have their own protective mechanism. And those defensive mechanisms within coffee can be potentially harmful to our guts, but it's not everybody. So I'd say the people that are dealing with chronic illness, and the people that are dealing with leaky gut already, they're having issues like autoimmune issues already, probably the type of people that are not going to do that great with coffee, right? And the best way to tell, you're going to hear me say this a million times, just take it out for 30 days, see how you feel, bring it back in and see what happens. And if you're having a negative reaction, if your face is getting hot, if all of a sudden you're going to the restroom, the coffee, that particular coffee at least, is not working for you, So, she asked whether, it's if it's an acid and that's a problematic thing. I don't get too concerned about food or liquid being a acid or not, or a base or anything like that, because that has little impact on internal pH, right? So you can eat a completely acidic diet, but still have a good pH, like a very alkaline pH. And so there's very little correlation between what you put in and what your actual pH is. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would be more concerned about the quality of the coffee, making sure that it's of the highest quality, that it's fresh, organic. Wet press coffee is best if you can find that. And I would say also, just to mention that there are toxins within a lot of the conventional coffee. Like there's mycotoxins, there's pesticides that the coffee beans are grown with, and these negatively impact your body. So if you can find mycotoxin-free coffee and pesticide-free coffee, typically you're doing fine. If you get organic coffee, that's local, that's going to be good for you. But you'll also notice that the decaf coffee is typically the coffee that has more of those toxins. So in many cases, people think they're reacting to the caffeine, but so they end up drinking decaf coffee. But in most cases, it's actually the decaf coffee that's more problematic for people than the caffeinated coffee. So it's just things to think about. But yes, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. There's tons of research out there about the benefits of coffee too. Because you'll see that it decreases your risk for heart disease. Some say it will decrease your risk for inflammatory diseases. But all of the studies out there are done on observational studies, right? They're not double-blind, placebo group studies, but at the same time, they're out there. So you just have to be mindful of that. Try it for yourself. I'd say after you have that cup of coffee, green tea is a great option, but to not go too crazy on caffeinated green teas throughout the day, especially after 12, and make sure it's not disrupting your sleep. But yeah, I'd say no more than 1 to 2 cups of coffee a day. And anything, green teas after that, whatever teas you want after that are great.
Perfect. And we actually just had a question that popped up saying CBD, hemp oil for sleep.
It's great. It's fantastic. Actually, I use CBD every night. I forgot to mention that, but CBD, there's a ton of research coming out about CBD oil and about how effective it is for improving sleep and regenerating our cells. So I highly recommend people look into CBD oil. It's not, I don't know if it's legal everywhere in every state, but it is here in Texas, and that's a fairly conservative state. But yeah, it is fantastic. You just have to make sure you're not getting the THC psychoactive stuff, because that'll typically keep you up all night and thinking about all kinds of things. But yeah, I definitely recommend CBD oil. It's fantastic. And there's all kinds of brands out there, but the same thing with all of them. And there's so many of them coming up because it's such a hot topic. You just have to make sure that you're looking at the label. It's, look into how it's being sourced. It's not, grown with herbicides and pesticides, because that's happening too. So just really pay attention to the quality of the source. But yeah, definitely recommend CBD oil for a lot of reasons. For other same reasons we're talking about here, like the neurological system. People seem to get a lot of benefits from the neurological system and memory and brain growth when they start taking more CBD oil. So there's a lot happening there with the plant. So definitely highly recommend it.
I'll have to try that. I didn't even know about it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's really good. Yeah. Check out CBD oil. Perfect. Highly recommend it. Right. And for pain too. People who are inflamed and dealing with a lot of pain issues, CBD oil can be great.
Wonderful. Next question. This one This one is from Sue. She said, my hubby is an avid cyclist. In Oregon, we made paleo fat bombs for him to keep him fueled. We moved to Arizona recently. Any suggestions on hot weather alternatives would be appreciated.
Oh, nice, nice. Well, there's a lot of things that I would wonder there in terms of how long he's been eating clean. Like, if is he going from a standard American diet to I've been cycling the whole time, lots of sugar, and now I'm gonna all of a sudden go clean and try to eat like low carb paleo, and what would his intention be? Typically, people that are doing long aerobic type workouts can do fine with a lower carbohydrate kind of diet. So like less fruits, less starchy tubers. It just depends on if that's like necessarily what he wants to do or not. If he's just starting out, I wouldn't recommend that, right? So that takes a long time. It takes like maybe 6 months to 12 months to adapt. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing any kind of super low carb thing. And I think it's completely appropriate as long if he's lean, if he's happy with his current weight and where he's at. I think it's completely fine to do some carbohydrates while he's out on the road. Some considerations are to try to eat some things that are easily digestible. Like when you're working out, it's not a good idea to be scarfing down, steaks and really hard to digest meats or any. That's why I wonder about the fat bomb, because sometimes like fat is a harder macronutrient to digest and absorb. So because when we're working real hard, the blood is not in the digestive system. It's like all over the place. So you want something that's easy to digest, that's within good whole clean paleo parameters, and that he can handle, right? It's going to fuel him for the whole way. So some things that I like that work really well are yams, sweet potatoes. So just taking some yams or Japanese sweet potatoes are my favorite, and then baking them and then getting them real soft and then putting them in like a Ziploc bag, right? And that way you can just take a little bit, put it in your mouth, and it's kind of like a better way to do gel. You know how people use the racing gels? It's doing what that's doing, but it's a lot cleaner. It doesn't have any artificial substances in there. So that's one thing I would recommend. Bars are really great. Like Laura bars are pretty good. They're not the cleanest thing in the world, but they're pretty good. Another brand I like is all the Primal Kitchen bars are great. They have really good collagen bars, macadamia nut bars. And typically the nuts probably won't be too problematic. And there's a lot of good protein in there to fuel him along the way. I would also suggest like figs, like dry figs would be a really good thing to do. They're chewy, they're easily digestible. A few dates every now and then would be good. If you can tolerate the jerky, like a little bit of Epic bars are really good because they're real clean. They can withstand the heat fairly well. So right there, those are some good ones, I would say. Yeah, much better than gels, and yeah. I wouldn't do like. I always wonder what the fat bombs are. I don't know, but I would suggest whole real food. Yeah, sweet potatoes, little bit of nuts and seeds. Try some of those Primal Kitchen bars, and see how that goes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That concludes all of our questions.
All right. Wonderful.
Very helpful today. I'm learning lots of tips for sleep. So this was a great discussion.
Yeah, I would love for everyone to try some things out, try out the magnesium, and maybe if you want to get some blue blockers, whatever you want, get to bed earlier and report back. Let us know how it goes. And if you have any feedback or any questions, please post them in the comments section. We always come back and try to answer every question we can on here. So thank you guys.
Yes. And have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Adios.
Adios.